So, if your master plan to financial freedom was just to say, hey, ChatGPT, build me a Shopify app that does this, this, and that, yeah, that's not really gonna work out well for you. But fortunately for you, in this video, I will tell you more about my experiences of using AI to build an app that I'm going to be launching in the next few weeks. I'll talk about all the things it did well, all the things it didn't do that well, and exactly how I think you should leverage AI. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to show you my exact setup that I used to build my Shopify app, all the AI tools and everything. So let's get into it. I tried using ChatGPT and other AI tools like Gemini to build my Shopify app, and here's the hard truth that I know some of you are not going to like. You cannot use AI to build your Shopify app. Well, technically you can use it to help, but it's not going to build the whole app from end to end for you. So all those videos you've seen online that are telling you you don't need to learn how to code, you can just vibe code your way to building this app or that app, yeah, they're lying to you. Now, I'm not saying AI tools aren't helpful, but it's not as simple as just telling it to go build this thing and it'll build it exactly the way you envision, or in a way that people actually would find useful. You need to actually know how to code, and you need to learn how to build a web app on your own, as well as how to use the Shopify tools properly so that you can guide AI to help you in a meaningful way. So in today's video, I want to talk more about my experiences of using AI to build the Shopify app that I'll be launching in just a few weeks. I want to talk about what it did well, what it didn't do very well, and how I think you can leverage it. And if you stick around to the end, I will be showing you my exact setup that I used to build my app. So that's what we're talking about. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing to note here is that AI is only as good as you are and the context you give it. AI is amazing. It can create lots of things for you, and it can really help you shortcut building out different features to help you create your Shopify app. But it is only as good as you are. So in my case, for example, I'm an experienced software developer. So I know how to ask certain questions. And I know when AI is giving me something that's garbage, right? But if you're a non-technical person, or if you're not even that good at being a developer yet, it's very difficult to tell good code from garbage that's either not gonna work, or there are edge cases you're not considering yet. And you'll have no way of knowing unless you have the experience. And in some cases, it'll give you code that works, but is incomplete. And this actually happened to me. So, quick story right now. After I launched the first video of my Shopify app series back in January, I had someone reach out to help him build a Shopify app in PHP and Laravel. Now, I'm not much of a PHP developer. I know just the basics only, but I thought that because I knew how to do Shopify app development in Node and Express, and I understood the concepts, that it'd be easy to have AI vibe code my way to a working Shopify app in PHP Laravel, and boy was I wrong. So there I was pulling a GitHub repo of a Shopify app template that Shopify created themselves in PHP Laravel, and I thought, it's okay, I'm a developer, right? I can figure this out, or an AI can fill in the gaps. And I did have an idea of what I was doing, but I was working on outdated knowledge of app development. I'm not going to get too in the weeds on this, but essentially, the app template that I was using an old method of creating Shopify apps that is not in line with what Shopify expects today. And when I was prompting ChatGPT and other AI tools that I use, it was producing code for me based on the old way of doing things. And I thought, okay, I'll just feed it the code from the template and it'll figure out how to do the things I'm trying to ask it to do. And while everything that it was doing was relevant to that template, all the stuff that it was using was outdated. All of the packages used in the code were outdated. The versions of the different Shopify libraries required to do app development was all outdated. And essentially, I ended up creating something that kind of worked, but kind of didn't, right? And it wasn't until I took a step back and actually tried to figure out the basics behind the entire workflow of how a Shopify app is supposed to work, that was when I actually figured out the problem and was able to move forward. So I wasted a ton of time on that project trying to help this person set up the Shopify app in PHP, because I was so focused on trying to vibe code my way to something that worked instead of using my brain taking a step back and figuring it out the old-fashioned way. So when you're using AI, it's important to be able to make a decision between whether something is a good thing for AI to do or if you should step in and take control of the process. And again, if you're not technical and you have no idea what you're doing, it's just making life that much harder. Okay, let's hop into a dream world for a second. Let's imagine ChatGPT, Claude Code, or whatever AI tool you're using has perfect context of what you're doing. It completely understands what you're asking it. Eventually, they will all encounter the same problem, and that problem is called hallucinations. So, I was actually at a Shopify event recently, and I saw this person put this up on the screen during their presentation that I thought would be perfect to include in this video. So the person said in their thing, if someone says their AI agent's hallucination rate is 0%, they're lying to you. Now, they were talking about using AI agents on a Shopify store specifically, but I think this works really well for having it produce code for you too. So when they say AI hallucinates, it just means it randomly loses track of the thing you're talking about and starts to generate things that are completely wrong. It's like, imagine asking someone what their name is and all of a sudden they suddenly forget what their name is, right? Like it hallucinates, it loses context, it has no idea what's going on. So this is something that's always going to happen eventually because when you're doing Shopify app development, there's just too much stuff that you have to know that you have to include in your app. There's so many things to keep track of, like using the Shopify GraphQL API, properly implementing Shopify OAuth protocol for security, understanding how to use the Shopify TOML files properly with the Shopify CLI, using Shopify Polaris, using Shopify App Bridge, as well as all of the documentation for whatever framework or programming language you're using to build the app in the first place. It's a lot of stuff to keep track of. And that's not even considering what build tools you're using, what packages you're using for your project, and if those packages are compatible with each other. It's a lot of stuff. So eventually, AI is going to make a mistake. Now, if you're an experienced developer, or you at least have some coding experience and are willing to learn, even if it makes a mistake, you can catch it and you can fix it. But if you're a non-technical person, or if you're just a Shopify merchant who just wants to jump in and build a Shopify app, man, oh man, you're in for a rough time. But again, if you're willing to stick around and figure it out, it is figure outable. It's just very frustrating. And the more technical skills you have, the easier it will be for you, especially when using these tools. Now, I actually had this happen to me in my project. So the Shopify app that I'll be launching soon, I noticed in the documentation when I read it over that you have to have the most up-to-date version of a Shopify library called Shopify App Bridge. Shopify App Bridge is very important in the Shopify App OAuth protocol, as well as how your app functions inside of someone's Shopify store when it is embedded. So, super important. You need to know how it works. Now, I was using a version of Shopify App Bridge that was old, and the Shopify App Guidelines said I need to be using the most up-to-date version of Shopify App Bridge. So I had to go in and update it. Now, me, in my infinite wisdom, I said, okay, this is something I'll have AI do for me. So I gave AI a pretty good prompt and I told it to update Shopify App Bridge while maintaining the functionality that my app requires to work properly. I thought that that would work just fine. And it definitely did something, but it wasn't what I was trying to do, right? So it generated a bunch of code for me that was wrong. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out, like, yo, like, what's going on? How do I fix this? I was making posts on the Shopify developer forum, just trying to figure out what's going on. And it wasn't until I took a step back and went through all the Shopify App Bridge documentation and really tried to understand how the documentation differed from what I was currently doing and comparing my project to a bunch of other examples online. It wasn't until I did that. When I did that, I was finally able to figure out what my problem was, and I was able to update my version of Shopify App Bridge. I created a pretty good prompt to ask AI to do it, but it got that wrong. So these things happen. Again, if you're technical, you can kind of dodge the punches and figure out how to finish, right? But if you're not, yeah, you're going to get hit in the face a lot. Also, the last thing I want to mention here is that you can't just give AI tools free reign to generate whatever code it wants. You have to understand that even with the best intentions, like I've been saying this whole time, it'll generate code that doesn't work. Or maybe your prompt wasn't clear enough. You have to be able to take the response it gives you, that is 75% of the functionality you're trying to create, and use your own brain to get that last 25% and get it over the finish line. If you have no idea what you're doing, that's very hard to do. But if you have some experience, super easy. Well, not super easy, but like doable, right? So if you haven't caught it by now, the moral of the story is if you have some coding experience or are at least willing to learn, these AI tools can work out beautifully for you. But if you think you're just gonna hands off, just develop your own Shopify app and just make money online and be on a beach sipping Mai Tai somewhere, my friend, you are in for a hard time. But as long as you understand that's the reality of doing this, then you'll be okay. Okay, so I just sat here and told you a bunch of things that I don't think AI did that well for me when I was working on my Shopify project. But now I'm going to tell you all the things I think it does really well and that I have used it for or plan to use it for, and things I think you should use it for too. I'm actually going to share my screen so we can go over this together. Okay, so right here, I have all the things that I think you should use AI for when doing Shopify app development. So I put up here, use it to help you think. This is a big one. So when you're planning out the different things involved in launching a Shopify app, there's a lot of things to consider. The development itself is one thing to consider. Finding a good Shopify app idea in the first place is a whole other thing to consider. And then let's say you find an idea and you're able to build it. Now you have to figure out what's the best way to get my first few users? How do I actually get these people to engage with me? And what does my marketing plan look like here? Those are things I think you should use AI for. So right here, I have a bullet point. Use AI for market research and marketing plan and coming up with your marketing plan. So I have it right here. You can grab a few links of the top few Shopify apps in whatever app category you want to build in and have it analyze the top apps, have it look at the reviews if you can see them, and put it all into a document and then feed the document to AI to figure out what are some of the most common features all these apps have in common and what are some potential things that could be gaps that you can fill with your app. And that'll help you out when you're reaching out to people to see if the ideas you have about what's missing is actually something that people want in the app when you launch it, or if it's something that they don't really care about that much. So you can use it to help you come up with outreach messages to merchants. So right now, my current Shopify app, I'm at the point where I finally built out the MVP and I get to test it with different Shopify store owners. So I'm going to use AI to help me with outreach and to help me craft messages when I reach out to people so that they can help me test the app and maybe I can get my first few users. Now, the second thing I have here is MVP ideation and project roadmap. So when you're utilizing AI, I used Gemini for this. I came up with the idea for my app and I input it into Gemini and then I input a bunch of details from the different listings of Shopify apps that fit the same category I'm trying to build in. And I said, hey, Gemini, I want you to build me out a project roadmap for a Shopify app that has these specific features. And it'll sit there and it'll break down all the features into different things you can do. And if you get really specific with your app, you can have it come up with a timeline for you, an exact different things you have to do to build out each feature. That way, if you're building something complex or just something you haven't built before, you can break it down into really simple steps you can easily follow. Now, of course, as you're building it, the plans might change as it did for me because I was building one app in the cart abandonment space, and then I ended up pivoting to building a bundle builder app. So yeah, things change. Sometimes you got to pivot, but having it come up with a roadmap and a plan for you definitely gives you a lot of clarity. So I think you should do that. Now, this one was huge for me. Pair programming and planning out logic for features. So I'm a pretty experienced front end developer, but my back end skills could use a lot of work. So when I first started working on my Shopify app, my back end skills were pretty basic. I built my app in Express and Node.js, and I knew the basics like how to set up a web server, how to turn on my ngrok URL to have a live URL to feed to Shopify, and how to set up basic API endpoints for your front end to call. But beyond that, I didn't know anything. So I had AI help me do pair programming to figure out how to do things like setting up middleware, how to run through the OAuth strategy properly, and just different things like that that you would need to know as a backend developer. So that pair programming experience was really valuable for me. Now, an important tip about what I'm saying about the pair programming thing, you want to make sure that you're using AI in a way that's helping you, not thinking for you. At the end of the day, you're the one that's building out this experience for your customers. So you need to be at the forefront of the planning. Now, of course, AI is going to have wonderful ideas for you to implement, but you want to make sure that you're really on board for whatever it suggests. And if you're not, in your prompts, just say that. Hey, I don't like this idea. Let's do this instead. Or what do you think about this? And then that's more of a pair programming experience. Like you guys are partners, not AI is just coming up with everything and you're just sitting back hoping it's getting it right. No, pair programming. Okay, this next one was actually pretty big for me too. I said you can use AI to do tedious things like setting up Vite, Webpack, Docker, app database tables, and models. This is actually huge. So when I was setting up my database tables, it had been a long time since I did that kind of thing. So I used AI to help me set up all the table relationships and help me figure out what data I should be storing in my database and what isn't that important for me. And at the time when I was building my app, my front end for the Shopify app admin is in React, and your boy does not know any React. I'm a Vue.js developer. I don't know anything about React. So I used AI to help me set up my React project with Vite in a way that made sense for my project. I really wanted to avoid setting up two separate GitHub repos, so everything exists inside of one repo, and I used Vite to help make that possible. But again, because I don't know how to use Vite, I used AI a lot of vibe coding on that end to figure out the proper setup for Vite to do exactly what I was trying to do. Now, this next thing is a no-brainer, something you're probably already doing. You're going to use AI to debug your code and to refactor working code. So you can get feedback on your code, and maybe you can ask it to find potential edge cases in the code that you wrote, or ways you can make the code simpler, or how you can handle errors better. And if you're up to doing test driven development, I've never done it before, but I should. You can have AI help you write unit tests for your app. Now, these next two are pretty cool. So, this is two things I do with AI a lot. I use AI to help me learn and understand code I did not write. This was huge for me because when I was figuring out how to do different things in my Shopify app, I had to search up different Shopify repos and different languages or sometimes in different frameworks I've never used before just to understand how things are supposed to fit together. Now, of course, sometimes the code was so high level that even I had a hard time understanding what it was trying to do, or sometimes the code was in a language I don't know, and in that case, I don't want to have to figure out the intricacies of that language just to understand what's happening. So I'd take the chunk of code, I'd pass it into Gemini or whatever AI tool I was using, and I would have it explain the code to me in very simple language. That's a great use case for Shopify app development because a lot of the stuff is super complex and it'll break it down for you. And the last thing that I think you should use AI for, it's actually really cool. If you draw a wireframe of an image and you paste it into Gemini, it will generate working code for you that you can use as a base for whatever it is you're trying to build. So the app that I'm working on right now that you can actually see on the screen, The initial version of the design for this was actually a wireframe that I drew out in a notebook. And then I uploaded the picture to Gemini and had it generate some code for me. So that's another amazing use case for this. Okay, if you stuck around this long in the video, as I mentioned in the intro, I actually have a bonus for you. I'm going to show you the exact setup that I used to build the Shopify app that I'll be publishing on the Shopify App Store very soon. So let me share my screen so you can see what's going on. Okay, you're currently inside of the app that I'm going to be launching very soon here. Now, I want to show you this right here. In my extensions, I have a VS Code extension in here called Klein. I actually mentioned this earlier in the video, but Klein is the AI tool that I use inside of VS Code for everything. Now, if you use Cursor, this is pretty similar to how Cursor works. Now, you might be asking, hey Patrick, why didn't you just use Cursor? Like, why are you using Klein? The reason why I didn't use Cursor, or why I'm not using it currently, is because Cursor costs $20 a month. I don't have $20 a month to give to that. I'm already paying for a whole bunch of other stuff, like my email newsletter, my Google Workspace account, and a bunch of different tools I use to make these videos and other stuff I have going on. I'm not trying to add another bill on top of what I got currently have going on. And that's the beautiful thing about Klein. So right here, it's really cool because if I go in and look at the settings, you can see I have an API key provided here from a platform called DeepSeek. You guys might have heard about DeepSeek if you spend any time on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Maybe someone's mentioned it. DeepSeek is an AI model that comes from China that's supposed to be a ChatGPT alternative. In my opinion, I think it works really well. Now, the cool thing about Klein is you can use a whole bunch of different API providers in here, including Claude Code, Anthropic, of course, OpenAI. Gemini is also an option in here, as well as Olama. Whole bunch of options in here. I just wanted to use DeepSeek because it's incredibly affordable. I'm actually going to show you right now. We're going to log into DeepSeek right now just so I can show you. I want to show you how much I paid for this so far. Okay, so inside of my account, you see this, right? So I'm going to show you how much of DeepSeek I've used since May. So I started development on the app I'm currently working on at the end of May because I pivoted to a different idea. So I want to show you from May. Hold on. Yeah, I'll just show you a month by month breakdown. So in May, I spent 39 cents on this. And look at how much I was using it. Bunch of requests, right? Let's look at June. In June, again, I used a ton of requests and my monthly usage was at 78 cents. Actually, I got the number wrong for May. For May, I used $1.26. For June, I used 78 cents. For July, I used 24 cents. And then for the current month of August, I used 39 cents. So I'm nowhere near how much I would have paid for a month of using Cursor and whatever AI model I tried to use with it. So I would have probably spent $60 using Cursor. And in this case, I spent less than 10, maybe even less than 5. I can't do math right now. Essentially, it's super inexpensive, which is why I use it a lot. So I use DeepSeek inside of my VS Code to do things. And then I have a Google Workspace account. So I also use Gemini as well. I use ChatGPT too to do certain parts of the app that I was building, but I just like using Gemini more because I have a Google Workspace account, so it's just easy for me to do that. So if I look inside of this Gemini window right here, I just had a conversation with it back and forth. trying to build out different features of my app. As you can see here, I can provide it pictures of things and ask it for its opinion, and it'll say, oh, that's an excellent idea. Adding this is blah, 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 and it'll just tell me what's going on. Also, I pass in code to it and have it help me fix the different logic and add different features to it. Like the code you're seeing on the screen right now is code related to a Shopify function that is included in my app. So a lot of useful things here. Like right here, you can see the query input for a Shopify function. So I mainly use Gemini and Klein with DeepSeek to do all of my AI work for the Shopify app. But I plan on using it for a bunch of different things and using a bunch of different tools, as well as exploring AI agents to see what we can do to use that for as far as marketing and other things are concerned. So if that's interesting to you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that. Anyway, I've yapped enough. That's about all I got for this video. Those are my thoughts on how you can use AI to build a Shopify app. Now, if you like this video, make sure you stick around and watch the next one. It should be at the bottom left of the screen. It's the video that YouTube recommends for you. I think you'll really enjoy it. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you on the next video.